Hello! Welcome back to the Funk Treatise 5th edition. This is going to be pages 81 through 90, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, 81 through 90, read by Rachel Blomstrom. Again, Rachel, thank you very much for being a part of this project. And let's get started.
Hi, my name is Rachel Blomstrom,
Oh.
and I will be reading pages 81 to 90. Anonymous in Maroon, December 8th, 2019, 10:25. No and yes.
Oh. Again, I'm going to kind of fill y'all in on what this is a response to so it's easier for y'all. This is in response to the person who was like, let's play a game where we slap each other.
That is how you currently interpret what I'm saying, but I know it to not be what I'm moving towards. But it is, in a way, also part of it. Many events will do just as you have stated, and we both know that because we have observed the patterns of it happening. For example, the events that led up to that person proposing that exact scenario. I can personally promise I have no current need to do what you have stated because I, at this time, understand it to be so. But yes, potentially and unavoidably, it will probably at some point lead to that, and probably already has. But right now, in our current time, I am not, won't, and do not want to intentionally, quote, hurt you or anything else in a negative way. But I, or something, still inevitably will, and won't. I will eat chicken or peanut or drink water or hurt someone's feelings, and that is subjectively harmful in existence for the chicken, peanut, water, feelings, and etc. But it is also somehow subjectively good for us unless I choose not to eat a chicken or peanut. But again, as I have stated, it is both avoidable and unavoidable. We currently will always knowingly do, have done, and will do.
I don't know if that is a sufficient response to that guy's comment on let's play a game where we slap each other. And I think it continues off of like, you go first, I slap me. Yeah, you go first. Wow, you slap me, but I win because I got you to do it because it's my game and I like being slapped. Uh, I wish I knew a little bit more about the context of what they were getting at, and if I think that if I really had to now go back and analyze a better response, because when I was responding in that moment, I didn't really understand what they mean. And I still kind of don't. But I think if I had to assume what they mean, it's kind of like I think they think I'm setting them up in a situation, or not them, but anyone, into this situation of like, uh, with funk being anything and everything, and as broad as it is, uh, no matter what you do in response is a right scenario. And so in this situation, uh, if we're just sitting here slapping each other, and I let you slap me, and I'm like, oh, cool, I got you to slap me, I win. Um, but that's not what this is. Uh, and so I still wish that this person, and if you have any other thoughts on what this means, or if you are this person who said this thing, leave a comment down below. I'd love to engage in discourse on that and see what you mean and see if that still applies to where all this information is at now that it's changed and has more behind it. But in the response that I did have, I think that kind of makes sense. But I also don't think that was uh, a great response back to what that person was saying. But it does, in a way, help explain this whole concept and everything to some degree. That things are unavoidable and that we've done these things, or eventually they will happen, or they won't. Again, it's a lot of repetition, a lot of things that have been said and will be said multiple times, and then we'll forget all of what's been said, all of these repetitions. And when you want to remember, you can look back and remember to your ability. And then this next post is in response with the guy who was talking about the AI, developing an AI, and they say, all right, I'll share it with you.
Anonymous in Maroon continues, 1035. Take as much time and effort you need. We both have and or do not have it, but here we are doing, so why not do what we can or want to do? Or not. I am curious and excited to experience the information you have and are seemingly about to share with me. Again, at this time and across the future, you and everyone here can reach me if you want or need to at whodathunkband@gmail.com, unless you are now also unable to do so. And if by the time we ever reach that point, everything else still has had and will eventually, with enough time, have access to it at some point, and it'll just get easier and easier and exponentially more and more understandable. Anonymous.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I haven't reached back out to this person in several years. I'll send them an email and see where they are in life, how this project's going, and see if I get a response back. And I'll let y'all know how that goes. This next post is in response to the main post, the very opening post, Welcome to the Funk.
In black. 1035. Schizo. Anonymous in maroon. 1041.
This is me in response to that comment.
I'll look into it. Thanks for your input. Currently, I and the community I most often interact with know me to not be what you're proposing, and to always in my existence to have been quite level-headed, understanding, and able to be understood. That
And that is not to say that people who have schizophrenia cannot be level-headed, understanding, or understood.
accusation is blinding you and potentially others from deeper understanding of what I am saying, and as I have already stated and know myself to be. I am subjectively quite, quote, mentally healthy and functionally aware of, quote, reality. Still love ya, and thanks for your input. Anonymous in dark blue, 1043.
This is in response to the opening post, Welcome to the Funk.
When I thought of, quote, God as everything that is existent and non-existent. I'm not entirely sure how to phrase it in a good way. I was never able to really expand this thought, and I do not think I've ever fully understand everything you've written about this, but reminds me of that idea. And I'm anonymous and
I don't know completely what this person means because I am not their experience, and I only have the assumption of this one paragraph. But yeah, kind of. That is kind of what I'm saying. That God, or the God within funk, or the God that is beyond funk, depending on if we find more about God, and if God is this thing that we describe. Again, I call it kind of funk in a non-religious sense, because God has grown a negative connotation in a lot of areas across the years. And additionally, when you reference God, you usually do mean it religiously and everything, or in different sects and stuff. But God, as a term, as a word, as a semiotic, would still be within a holon of what funk is, even if they are eventually to be known as the same thing. But as far as forms go, they are separate yaws.
dark blue continues 1044.
This is in response to that last post. This is the person fixing it.
Correction. When I was a child. Anonymous in green, 1045.
This is someone else responding to the post that just says schizo.
I don't agree with you. You must be a schizo poster. Anonymous in maroon.
And that's said with like brackets, so that's kind of in sarcasm of like calling that person out. Not brackets. The whatever the let's say the less than symbol in this case. This next post is me responding to the person saying, when I was a child, I thought of God as everything and nothing. And
1054. Whether you or I fully understand it or not, the fact that you are attempting further proves or advances my theory. We are together now collecting the data of the event and all events leading up to it.
And well, I put advances in brackets because at the time I said proves, and when I say proves, I don't mean completely proves it. It's a type of proof, right? But not exactly the proof. It is just another example, and that's why I say it slightly advances.
We have, in a long way through time, experience, technology, and our senses, reached the level of omnipresence and omnipotence we were in the past attributing to the descriptions of our understanding of gods or higher beings. We have now become it, but are also not 100% exactly doing exactly it. But we have a minutely closer potential statistic chance or becoming it or finding out what it means to understand the ideas and experiences behind them. Am I, quote, God? No, not in this reality. And you understand that. And I also understand that. But if I change my name to, quote, God, or work up to a closer point of how to become, so it becomes more and more probable and improbable, and I and us in some way have now become it or closer to it or not. It's a lot of repetition and very lengthy. So I understand how potentially difficult it can be for you to calculate or interpret all of this information. But by that same chance, here we are doing just that. Anonymous.
And so what I kind of mean there is from the second paragraph of we're not gods yet, but like we are closer to the understanding of what gods are uh, as someone compared to like in the BC stages, like ancient Greece, right? Ancient, like someone describing gods and everything. Let's use Greek mythology, like describing Thor or I think it's Hermes, that the guy that like could run really fast and deliver messages and everything. Uh, and so let's take, I think, gosh, is it Hermes who could run fast? He had the wings. Yes. Okay. And so he was the fastest god. And so he could basically, he was the role of the messenger. And now, where we are in time, I can send you a message across the world like that. And so we have the power of Hermes in a way, right? Um, Other examples of gods and stuff like being able to control electricity. You know, we can do that. My entire house and this computer, all of these things are powered by electricity. We have harnessed electricity. Now, can I shoot uh, lightning beams out of my hands? No, but I'm sure someone could build something that could, and I'm sure someone has built something. I mean, think of a taser, you know, for example. Uh, or those like Tesla coil things, you know. Um, and so we are closer to the idea of what God or gods once were. And so here we are as these like semi demigods. um, but now we have a even greater understanding of what God is, what God could be. And you and I, are not currently there to that level. But who's to say that from ancient Greece times to now times, from now times to however long that is, we're going to be closer to this thing. Um, Another example is like uh, we can do all those things that gods kind of can, but in a simulated reality. Like we can become God in a video game and everything. We can have the power if we so choose. Can we do that in reality? To be determined. Uh, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. And then the next comment is me responding to the person saying, uh, to the person going, calling out the guy saying the schizo thing, saying, I don't agree with you, you must be a schizo poster.
Miss in Maroon continues, 1057. This person, or perhaps thing responding, sees the pattern I and others have witnessed to calculably halt further progressive understanding. Thank you for your attribution and interpretation and transcription. You have now helped us all further understand by doing and discussing.
And so, like, I don't know the word I'm looking for. A bigger example, an extreme example, I guess, of that is like, imagine like I was sharing this information in this forum, and again for 4chan, this is pretty light. Uh, Depending on what forum you're posting on, this was paranormal. Um, but if everyone had just been like, "Oh, you schizo, you shut up," you're manic, which as you can see throughout this treatise, a couple people, use the argument of mania, and in here, that guy is like, "Oh, you schizo," sharing all this information, writing about nonsense or whatnot. If everyone was doing that, then like this information wouldn't be where it was right now. Maybe it would. Maybe I would have, no matter what, continued going with any opposition. But the thing that really does keep me going is I see a lot more of the inverse. I see a lot more of people understanding and getting what I'm going at, rather than deferring to ad hominem and just attacking me. Um, and so that, I think, says something to a degree. And again, if one day someone or something is able to come out and give me a defeater that basically puts all of this to rest, so be it. Have at it. Let me hear it. Leave it down below in the comments. This next post is just a post to the post, not in response to anything or anyone, just someone commenting in the post.
Anonymous in Black, 11 o'clock. OP is a raging homosexual.
Again, just the internet being the internet, especially 4chan being 4chan. Um, and I included that quote in the beginning of when you look at the reviews of people. That is the last one that you could read, because again, I want to showcase both sides. People who slightly understand, people who don't want to understand. It's all of that. It's all of it and everything. This is me responding to that comment.
Anonymous in Maroon, 11:15. Whether I am or not, why does that matter to you? What you are labeling me is subjectively true and or false, and you're making a blind guess. I, for the most of my idea, identify myself to be mostly, quote, straight, as I am attracted to the aesthetic pattern of what is known to be feminine. But yes, I'm also, quote, queer in that I'm able to enjoy these things if I so decide. Really, if I had to be honest, I'm in love with this idea of the, quote, the funk and we and us. And if I love that, then I also love you. And if you are identifiably a male, then I also love you too, as I would love family or friends. But that love does not mean I want to have sexual relations with you or exactly what you are thinking or stating me to be. Anonymous Maroon.
I think that is going to confuse a lot of people, saying that I'm mostly straight, but I'm also queer. Why I say that I would lean into queer straight is because I'm attracted to women sexually and romantically, but I'm also non-traditionally open to other things. I don't. I have no interest in men or homosexuality, but it doesn't turn me off. It's not something that I'm adamantly opposed to. Like a lot of my friends are gay. Uh, that doesn't bother me, and so I lean towards queer because I am a non-traditional straight person. I don't follow this whole super straight traditional routine that some people feed into. I find it boring.
Continues, 11:17. But also, your accusation still seemingly proves my theory to those further understanding myself in it. So, thanks, friend.
And
And
while
then
I find it boring, again, to each their own. I'm not hating on anyone. Everyone be their thing, be their own thing, love each other. That's what I'm suggesting. And you can do that sexually or non-sexually. It's up to you. It's a whole spectrum of love and vibes, and that's why I lean more towards queer, because I have those opinions. Who'd have thought?
Anonymous in Maroon continues, 1134. To anyone now reading this message, I also request you begin describing to me your other senses as you experience them. If you feel I am not understanding or relaying your information into myself and or ourselves properly, feel free to use what I and possibly you know as touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste to translate and transmit to me how you are experiencing it so we can closer reach the understanding of it to you, I, and others. But also, it is okay if you don't or are unable to properly explain in a more advanced way than what you or I know and understand yours and our understanding and experiencing to be. Thanks in advance.
And again, that is me proposing. Respond in any way that you are able. Engage in any way are you able. How are you experiencing this moment right now? What are your thoughts on what I'm saying or what you're hearing? Or even like if you don't want to talk about that, tell me about your life. Oh, what does this remind you of? Or if you don't even want to talk about this information, just what do you feel? What do you hear right now? What do you see? What did you eat for breakfast, and how do you think that affects your day? Just a random thing. Or if something you feel moved to share something, go ahead and share it. Now, I would again lean towards if you're just going to sit here and be rude and hate. I mean, you're more than welcome to share that, but the engagement of discourse is going to be different than if you're trying to constructively add a tribute to the discourse. This next is just continuation.
Anonymous in Maroon continues, 1211. Example: Captain Picard. I propose from this moment and before, when each and every iteration of Captain Picard said the phrase, quote, make it so, everything that comes after is indeed, quote, made so, and that so also makes us. Can you prove that wrong? It is now seemingly true and false to us, and every experience after it as we now together understand it to be. The
And what I mean by that it is true and false is that, yes, Star Trek is a television show, right? It is written. It is a story that, of course, every time Picard says, make it so, it's going to be made so. And if it isn't made so, it's going to be used in an interesting way that continues the story moving forward, right? But even still, every make it so has led us to this moment, right? Each of those make it so's continued into the future. And now we are making it so. And so while Captain Picard, and so how, the true falseness of it is false that Captain Picard is making you and I so right now, but he also led up to this moment by making it so. And so all of those moments were made so, and now you and I can make it so. And so it's true and false and superpositional and moments. They each influence each other.
monk, therefore, is seemingly providing for itself, as we now at this time can further pinpoint it to be until things are so clearly understood that it becomes the next variable of itself, both selfishly and selflessly. We know we are all together advancing through time and space at this moment and can prove it until we cannot or won't. So, what comes next? This boop, beep, boop. See, you are, in your perspective, able to understand what I mean now as I explain, as I also do myself, as observably and subjectively, a mathematically advanced answer in the past now is becoming reality. I am realizing and presenting all of this information to you just as you are to yourself as well, and not at various individual levels. It's going to happen. So let's now progressively work together and function as data and information and its advancement and see what comes next. Perhaps you are thinking you're saying fuck or what or didn't or aren't, but now I and you and we and the funk have done so, and we are expanding from those moments.
And so, uh, just by reading the word fuck, right, you are in a way thinking or saying it. And so it has moved into you and influenced you. Uh, and maybe, again, right now, I'm talking to the theoretical you. There is no actual you. This is me talking to a camera on a computer. But over time, eventually, someone will watch this or read this, hopefully, and and that makes it branch over, right? Uh, and so that is the in the way that things are and aren't, will and won't, um, and all of it is expanding from all of these moments, from making it so to making it uh, so further.
If you or it outside of me and us are seemingly able to teach and inspire yourself and itself, then eventually, quote, everything inevitably will happen. And this is that point in our reality. And given enough time, will happen again and again, over and over, forever and ever, round and round in every way possible. But we're now connecting closer to the idea of the quote funk and how to apply it to ourselves. Is that not as exciting to you as I understand it also to myself be?
And so, what I mean there is like, as again, to slightly repeat myself, which is going to happen a lot, is all of reality and everything led up to you and I being able to have these conversations, to be able to think, to be able to move and be, and have these brains. Uh, a myriad of miracles had to happen for all of this to be. But now that it has, we know that it is possible. What else is possible? Given enough more time, right? Um, and now that we are these living, breathing, thinking things, uh, we're just going to continue evolving in that power to reach other ways to communicate with life and the universe and everything. We're going to recognize more patterns, these more things. Even as it expands, it gets harder to do so. It'll also become easier in other fields to do so. And we'll understand more while having even more to understand. Um, and so, yeah, we're connecting closer in these moments and learning and growing, uh, as well as the people fighting it and everything.
Please prove me both right and wrong. It's mathematically going to happen at some point, as is now further calculated. No matter what, I and you will be agreed with, disagreed with, and in every variation in between and beyond.
The whole spectrum.
Anonymous in Maroon continues, 1215. Every time I or you post, 4chan tells us, post successful. Almost like confirming the funk is allowing us to continue connecting. Do you understand? It is all continually pointing to yes up to this point, even if any of this is wrong or right. Arguably, quote, yes is of a subjectively greater value than, quote, no. The more we recognize and honor these moments, we can eventually pinpoint the equation and the results of throughout time and also possibly edit the past, present, or future to be more functionally so. With the creation of, quote, data, we are able to keep hitting save on our programs and documents until to share it at the level we are satisfied with. And that information will then unavoidably cause an effect and or reaction as the funk is observantly doing now at a constant rate. I'm going to hit post now and thus achieves that loop in the equation. This moment is now, to some degree, an influential part of history. Dope.
And just coming on the end, it, it is like that. I said that in 2019, and here it is becoming a greater influential part of history. Now it's in video form. Now Rachel has read it. Now you are listening to it. The theoretical you, whoever you are, uh, and it's just continuing. It's continuing these yeses that I mentioned in the beginning of this paragraph and post. Uh, each of these moments is post successful. We're continuing this yes and these we missions until eventually we reach a point where reality or funk says nope, can't do that, and that happens at different moments. It's like if we were to go to post to a website, or if we were to share something and it just doesn't fall through, it just doesn't happen. Like when you apply for a job and you don't get the job, it yes anded you in a different degree. It said nope, this isn't for you. Let's put you somewhere else. It's still a yes and a no. It's a no but as a yes and, right? Um, but as far as all of this information and everything goes, it's still continually being yes anded to a degree, whether it's right or wrong. And that's what I'm trying to figure out is the ways that it is right, the ways that it is wrong as well. Uh, I'm trying to no but it in a lot of ways more than yes and it. Because again, it's the constructive criticism, the peer review that I'm looking for that's going to help polish this at this point, and not the people who are just going to be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," because that helps. It helps me know that it's making more sense in translating, but I need it to make even more sense to the people who can't understand it or can't agree with it yet. Like I'm trying to polish it to reach that level of translation. Like right now, it's in English. How's this going to carry over to Spanish? Does it? Does it carry over to Arabic or any other language? French? German? I don't know. And so the goal is to continue polishing it in those areas until it is able to be digested in all of those areas throughout any brain or computer. Uh, through the put ear were Tepu Nine Beckfistage.
Anonymous in maroon, 1222. Parability within the paranormal. Anonymous in black, 1222. You plus me equals eternity.
Hell yeah, brother! And so that's another person just randomly commenting, and I see them understanding to whatever degree they understand.
Anonymous in maroon, 1238. Correction, and also without. So,
That's in response to parability within the paranormal, which, again, as parability, it is the ability to be together and to help others also be able to share our ability of things. And parability within the paranormal is all of this entire experience of life, the universe, and everything. That's pretty paranormal, right? And so I would argue that we are on an adventure of parability within the paranormal. Now, to what degree we are each wanting parability is very subjective and different for each of us.
feels not bad, right? Kind of good, but kind of weird. Everything is still functionally working until it doesn't, can't, or won't, or whatever else happens. Keep gaining that experience and causing, quote, life to happen. Every action has a reaction, even just thinking a thought. That's what we, as the quote, funk, now can prove works. By an expansion of the funk, everything is what you are now experiencing to be our reality. All messages above had to happen to reach this point and would always happen and can now be proved as both and all and is continuing to influence, create, and expand itself. All the patterns and data in this reality now point to some person typing these moments into a message board and beyond. We, in a way, could predict it's happening, and I'm pointing out to you those patterns predictably loop round and round, and the funk exists inside and outside of this and these moments. It's all built into and led up to our now observable nature. And I and we are now digitally, theoretically, metaphorically, etc., a fraction of the yes and no. And I am patting you and us on the back and about to hit post. Making sense?
Give me a Y5. You know what I'm saying? And so what I, again, mean by this, I had a good thought to say, and now I don't. It just left my body. Um, It's just another example of how every single thing had to lead. Oh, I remember. Uh, every single thing had to lead up to these moments, right? They had to lead up to the Funk Treatise. Every single comment and letter was shared in the exact same way, or the right way that moved forward to our moments. And now we are completing the circuit, right? That is not to say that this moment or these moments are the center of all moments and everything. No, this is just one of those moments while all the rest of the universe and everything is still experiencing the exact same thing. And they all are a part of each other. Uh, indirectly connected. This is me responding to the person who said you plus me equals eternity.
Anonymous in Maroon, 1240. Exactly, we are observing more evidence and reaching closer to further answers. It is late and I haven't slept yet as I am discussing this with you, everyone who's reading. So I'm descriptively, metaphorically, and physically awake to the information between the funk and attempting to relay that information in an effort to expand from the knowledge and experience of other individual perspectives. So, as you are interpreting this information, we can say the points between 3D, 4D, and beyond are to be connecting at this observable point until later understandable with more evidence in the future. As an example, 1D, good morning, 2D, good evening, 3D, good night, 4D, the funk, and beyond. Or, as we know Buzz Lightyear to have said, quote, to infinity and beyond, a now calculable, recognizable, and searchable pattern.
Uh, Mostly the response is just that first sentence back to that guy, and then the rest is just me kind of explaining more thoughts and everything. And what I mean by like awake is not like woke. Like just being awake to information is this. We're awake right now, digesting this information. I'm sharing it with you, and you're taking it in. And we're awake to that knowledge. We're awake to this funk. Um, and there are ways, I think, to raise that uh, awakenness is, I guess, the word. Um, and then when we sleep, we are a different form of we're resting in that awakeness, right? Now, I to this day, uh, that's a not a great way to put it. I don't really understand to the degree what I meant by the 1D good morning, 2D good evening, 3D good night, and 4D defunct. I think that's just like different evolutions of moments. Like one dimension is basically the flat like beginning, right? And so that's the good morning. It's these aren't direct metaphors, right? They're just kind of uh, placeholders for building blocks of ideas. And so then good evening comes to be even good day, right? Becomes the two dimensional when we're working with now we have morning becoming something else, right? It's becoming day and evening. And then even those two things become night. They become this further thing, which again reaches the third dimension. There's a third side to this time and space. And then the fourth dimension of the morning, evening, and night exists within the greater holon of the entirety of this moment, of what makes night, day, and evening even possible, and morning. And that's funk. And then that just moves beyond whatever is next, the 5D, the 6D. It's just different levels of holons of funk until we give them names. And then funk defines itself as that. To infinity and beyond.
Anonymous in Black, 1252, racial slur.
And it's the bad one.
Anonymous in Maroon, 1302. By saying that phrase
This is me responding to that person.
like that in any way you just did, You are what is currently, understandably and undeniably known to have come from racism. And sadly but surely, that attribution of our worldly knowing that racism is subjectively wrong, and you still think it's subjectively right, so they are therefore paradoxically all true. But morally, at this point in time, we should all be aware to be more understanding than to just use this phrase as you have. Unfortunately, you probably still will, as just as you have done, and will sadly most likely continue to be a hateful racist.
And it's sad. It saddens me a little bit, like how commonly that word is just thrown around on the internet. Because again, the internet is a mask that you can wear, and when you put on a mask, you still might show your true self to a degree, depending on how you are acting or who you are acting as. Um, but it is just as we talked about the other day. That lady called a kid the same word, and now at this point, she's raised over. The other day when I recorded this, I said that she had raised over $500,000. Now I think it's like over 700,000, which is very sad. All right, we continue.
Anonymous in maroon, 1257. My current dissertation of this event is currently, as I type this message, is now 55 pages long, or perhaps in the future 100 pages long. If I have emailed this now current or past version or something along those lines to someone or something else, and then eventually it reaches back to me or anyone, then this theory of connection is true. And so far, I have sent out 2 requested emails of copies of these documents. I quote, made it so. And simply by reading this or thinking about it, you are influenced and a part of it forever, even if you disconnect. April 26, 2022. Aside. Now it is over 200 pages, has been shared much more than 2 times, and is continuing to expand within reality. April 22nd, 2024. Additional note. And it keeps expanding.
Now it's 308 pages as of the 7th edition. The 5th edition that they were all reading, I believe, was 302 pages, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and additionally, now there's the entire TLDR series, which is 3 times as big as the treatise. It's like 800 something pages. But again, it's definitely more spaced out, way more spaced out than this is. And so. Oh, excuse me. Hopefully that wasn't contagious for you. Let us continue.
Back to December 8th, 2019, 12:59.
This is someone responding to the person who had that comment earlier in the thread about the Tekken World Tour.
Anonymous in black. LMAO based Tekken poster. May 9th, 2022. Now sharing once again with the universe, though this time through the community attempt of, quote, the School of Funk. URL included. If that's what connected you to this, thanks for being here and expanding together. Love you forever.
And so if you're watching this now, you are connected by the School of Funk.
Continues. I was redirected to a CIA government/reading room when attempting to retrieve this document from my Gmail after recording and uploading this video, having previously never visited, typed, or Googled. My browser simply just took me to the website. July 15, 2024. And again today after typing in netflix.com.
Now put on your tinfoil hats, because those moments did weird me out a little bit. Not like crazy level of like, oh, I'm freaking out, but like they still like made me look at like just be like, a little bit, because after I shared that linked video from the School of Funk, I don't remember which video it was, but I was going to that I link all the treatises to the videos and what format they were in, at the time. And when I was going to my Gmail to like get the link to upload the latest edition of the treatise online, my I clicked on literally like the little note thing that has your Gmail that like just takes you to Gmail, and instead it took me to cia.gov/reading room, and I sat there for a second just being like, what? Like, this is crazy. Uh, kind of like in the back of my head was like, what is this telling me? Like whether it was an accident or if there was meaning to send me to this thing. I still don't know why. And when you go to CIA.gov.reading room, it's like unclassified documents, but and you can search whatever you want and everything, different keywords and such to read what they have declassified. Now, there's still a lot of stuff that's like redacted and everything, but I think it's interesting that they're sharing this information. But like, I tried to like look for like stuff related to the funk or like just different things and everything, and I didn't really find much. I remember reading some interesting things that I was able to stumble upon. Um, but it literally just took me to the website, which I just found so crazy. And then again, as in July 15th, 2024, it happened again. It happened a second time after that first time. I didn't write that one down. But then that third time, it was directly, I typed in netflix.com, enter, and boop, took me right back to the CIA.gov/reading room. I don't know why. And so CIA, if you're watching me, like, I would love to, depending on like what y'all's agenda is, if there's a system that helps figure shit out like this, I'd love to be a part of it. I'd love to, I know that y'all have programs that put people through college and everything. Hit me up. I know that you have to apply online and everything. Um, Also, if y'all have like interstellar communications and everything or something like that, I'd love to do. I'd love to be a part of it. Um, it just depends on, again, on what y'all really do and what y'all are really about and everything. But I'd love to know. And yeah, so hit me up if you're watching this, CIA. Okay, let's continue.
May 10th, 2022. In the dream I just had, it was my, quote, job to be a good friend, partner, and to help others be the, quote, best themselves by being my, quote, best self. Or basically to just, quote, be myself and be there for and with others. The family and friends I was living/working with were trying to come up with a little title for what I was doing. And when we asked the father of the family, what my subconscious dreaming mind delivered to me was as cavernist. I'm going to start back at the beginning of that line. The family and friends I was living/working with were trying to come up with a title for what I was doing. And when we asked the father of the family what my subconscious dreaming mind delivered to me was a caervaniaist. I woke shortly after and Googled the word, which didn't have any results for itself, just a bunch of links related to the company Carvana. So I Googled the subparts. Caer means to fall off, fall down, fall on, to occur, to decline, to collapse, to die in battle, and can also mean a stronghold, fortress, or citadel. And Vania means truth, to bring good news, or that, quote, God is gracious, or gift of, quote, God. So the way I interpret the word caervania means to fall into the funk, or to be, quote, be a fortress of funk, or even to, quote, to fall into and out of existence with all of the all-encompassing fortress of funk, which very much encapsulates this overall phenomenon of funk I have been attempting to explain to you, the reader. Everyone and everything at every moment is experienced the Caervania and is, quote, falling into and forming the next moments or gifts of God. So I guess my personal theory of the funk is a form of Caervaniaism by falling into itself slash ourselves and expanding with itself slash ourselves. Every thought, experience, belief, creation, etc., is a result of Caravania. New note, April 23rd, 2024. Think of it like frames animating a film. To create animation or classic film, you take images frame after frame and record slash present them in a continuous series of motion. Caravania is the motion of funk frames of reality transitioning from frame to frame. Each frame, quote, falling into the next, quote, constructing frame at the speed of funk.
And so here, uh, on page 88 for the 5th edition and page 90 for the 7th edition, on May 10th, 2022, 3 years, I guess like 2 because it started in December 2019, but a few years after this whole treatise started, I had a dream. And in that dream, again, just like I said, it was just my job to do this, to do what we're doing, and to like talk about life and the universe, and to just be with people, and just that, to just be with people and do what we do, and try to advance that and make that thrive. Kind of a flourish, a eudaimonics, right? Um, and when we asked the dad, like, what is this? What is this called? Uh, he said a Carervaniist. And I just remember that sticking with me in the dream so much that when I woke up, I was like, what is a Carervaniist or a Caravaniist, right? And so I Googled it, and of course, Carvana came up. And then, as you see, I broke it down, and it helped describe the things that I had been describing for a few years. This word just came to me in a dream. And now you see it all throughout the treatise. You see it in the early stages where it still hadn't been defined yet, but now it had been defined because we were going back, inserting the future into the past uh, through Caravanic moments. And I still find that fascinating that not just Caravania, but a lot of the words and concepts, how they came to be just through dreams or in meditations, to help me in these moments describe what I meant and to you, the future, to help you understand. And maybe there are things that already uh, explain these concepts, but I don't know those words yet, and so the font provided me with these placeholders for now, or these what um, I guess you can say placeholder. Every word is a placeholder in some way. They're not all going to be forever. Some evolve into other things. That's just language. This evolving translation. All right, this next section is titled Link One, and this is uh, all the writing thing that very early on in the treatise, like in the first like few pages, someone's talking about Whitehead and a paper that they wrote and stuff, and then they give the link. This is it. So I put it early on in the treatise as link one, and so this is basically going to be that person talking to you through the treatise.
Link 1. The philosophy of the 23rd century is a naturalistic space Taoism based on change, evolution, and creativity, a view of the universe more profound than any religion has imagined. And as such, it is its true post-athean transcendenting atheism as negation by offering an affirmative view of life that solves the problem of omnipresent nihilism and alienation of the present, offering a physicalist reenchantment of the cosmos and a relationship with the world that can only be described as experiencing it as pure poetry in the fullness of its wonder horror, to be ever content and comfy, yet ever striving. Its symbol will inevitably be that of calculus integral. Drop link 2. Due to its similarity to the yin-yang, its synthesis of Eastern and Western thought, of the analytical with the analogical. Neo-China and Neo-Europe arrive from the future to save the present from the undead past, the autonomous movement of the unliving accelerating itself towards omnicide. Parentheses, makes sense.
And again, why I put this in here was because it was one of the first moments of just like, I had never really been exposed to Whitehead. But when I reached out to get more information about funk and opened this discourse, the floodgates opened. People shared their opinions and philosophers and things that I hadn't been exposed to yet. It was all the funk leading itself up to more funk and to me learning more things and knowledge. And this writing resonated so hard because it's just like, fuck, man, like here's someone explaining basically what I'm trying to explain, but in a different way, in a different time and space and perspective. And so I put it in here because I know it's going to help you understand a little bit more of what I'm trying to get at, what I'm trying to explain.
The
Because
metaphysical
I'm not the only person trying to explain this. The treatise and these videos are just my experience. And again, a stepping stone of someone who's going to carry this information on further. I will not be the one to finish this information.
nature of
Unless I am, which would be incredible, in my opinion, to me at least.
change is mirrored in all specifics of it, including that of calculus, the mathematical study of change, which is where we find formalization of our metaphysical principle. The fundamental theorem of calculus describes interrogation. I'm sorry. The fundamental theorem of calculus describes integration and derivation as inverse operations of the same process, with the physical intuition of integration being, quote, cumulative change and, quote, instantaneous change. These correspond to yin and yang of the Chinese philosophy, respectfully, with the Chinese insight into this relationship coming from careful observation of change and an extrapolation of its mechanics from observation, not wholly accurate, but the core relationship is precise. Examining the nature of our conscious perception of change shows why this is the case and gives evidence to the foundations of calculus is truly a metaphysical principle capable of accounting for human experience.
I'd also like to say that when I first saw this information, when the guy shared this with me and I read it, I remember reading it and just like a lot of philosophy and just like learning, I remember just being like, I don't understand some of this. Like, am I really comprehending all of this? Like, does this completely make sense? And some things made sense, some things didn't. But now that there's so much time between 2019 and now, and how deep I've gone into this study and everything, and how expanded my uh, philosophy education is, a lot of this stuff makes pretty good sense now. And even you could be listening right now and be like, maybe I'm not really getting this. If you continue to investigate, then you will learn more. And if not, you are more than welcome to just be like, it's not for me, you know? But it's those who are curious, those who knock. Uh, Sometimes the door will open. And sometimes the door's, the knob is ready to be turned and just it's unlocked, door's open. Sometimes the door's locked. Uh, what do you do about each and every scenario? You know what I mean? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Let us continue.
Parentheses. Makes sense. We perceive change in the reference frames of presentism and temporalism. Include link 3. Becoming and being, where in the form of a singular omnipresent moment is the fixed point of reference, and the ladder of line of time comprise a continuum of infinitesimal. We perceive change in the reference frames of presentism and temporalism. Link 3. becoming and being, where in the former a singular omnipresent moment is the fixed point of reference, and the latter the line of time comprised of a continuum infinitesimal moments that are gone as soon as they arrive. In the presentist perspective, cultivated by mindfulness practices, what is experienced is instantaneous change. In an ever present and in the temporalist perspective, cumulative change through time. The presentist mode is spatial, analogical, parentheses, simultaneous relationships, and relational. The temporalist mode, sequential, narrative, and logical, parentheses, causal relationships.
And that's basically describing Caravagna.
Though Alfred North Whitehead didn't realize it, his philosophy follows from calculus as a metaphysical principle precisely describing being and becoming, permanence and change as co-equals. That, quote, becoming is for the purpose of being, and being for the purpose of novel becoming. Rather than quote at length, here's the link dropped to the first 19 pages of the Metaphysics of Experience, a companion to Whitehead's Process and Reality. Parentheses. See page note 1 for my thoughts on this.
You can like Control F to like look for page note 1 because they're I don't believe they are close to each other anymore within the treatise. They might be. No, it's a few pages down. Okay, it's not too far off and separated. Though I lost where I am. Okay, let's continue.
Continues. That gives basic introduction to his philosophy, which I think the reader will conclude is a reflection of the metaphysical implications of calculus. He is the essential guide toward the philosophy of the 23rd century, but missing is the process of the self-consciousness as a creative process. Evolutionary theories of culture, such as memetics, fails to include subjective human experience, which does violence to it. We are all just, quote, meme machines, subject to mimetic forces. The mechanistic universe transformed into techno-organic infection. Douglas Hofstadter's view of consciousness takes a different direction, describing us as, quote, self-perceiving, self-inventing, locked-in mirages that are little miracles of self-reference. And it, end quote, and is heavy into process thought of some points, parentheses, especially his concept of shared interiority, that we host and are hosted by others. Yet it is still focused on the being self, a self-representation representing itself, the self as an object, the quote, I. What creates this self-representation is the becoming self, a self-querying query, a question questioning itself. Questions aren't a passive lack of answers, but are quests, searches, movements, and vectors of desire. The spotlight of our awareness is a request for information having directionality, and self-awareness comes from the interplay between the being self and the becoming self, the process of self-creativity.
I just find it so interesting how well this fits into everything, and that this random person from the internet, uh, on a random day that I randomly was like, I'm going to try to open this up to public forum, and they posted and shared this, and how well it just fits, and how it's basically explaining to a much better degree, but a even albeit a slightly more difficult understanding, a slightly probably even more knowledgeable understanding, um, and how it helps define this whole treatise, how it helps expand the information that I'm trying to say through someone else, and that it all was contained into here at some point, and now it is coming to you, just as it literally just said. Um, the gosh, where is it? That we host and that we are hosted. I'm hosting, and now you are basically receiving as the host. You are also hosting. We're both hosting in this moment and are hosting each other. We are the host and the hosted. Yet we're still focused on the being self. Um, it's just so the font provides. It's just such a moment of that.
The Darwinian process of variation to selection to reproduction is mirrored by the conscious process of question to choice to action. Our lines of inquiry create potentials that we select from to actualize. Substance metaphysics has made us blind to the essential generative component of consciousness, focusing on the ordering process of selection, resulting in the idea of free will. We are free, or not, to select from objects from a list according to our will, our desires. Our freedom lies in free inquiry, our capacity to question, as by questioning our will can create alternative desires. We can also question our questions and our actions. And so, human consciousness is a threefold strange loop of the evolutionary process unfolded upon itself. There's a link. Conscious experience is literally evolution evolved, the creative process that has folded upon itself to create self creators. Self creation isn't an absolute, but an art, a cultivated skill, and it is not a self creating create. I'm sorry. Self creation isn't an absolute, but an art, a cultivated skill, and it is not a self creation creating within itself. Example, nihilo, but a co creation with the multiplicity of existence.
He's just describing folk theory before me in different words. And I think that's fascinating. I think that's very interesting. Uh, or maybe it's not to you. You know, that is, I believe, the end of page 90 for Rachel. So I believe these are going to be her thoughts coming up next. Let's see where they are.
All right, my thoughts. First of all, it's a mouthful. And I would like to let you know that I have both my bachelor's and master's in creative writing. So a lot of my feedback is in reference to the writing specifically. I'm not really sure what you're looking for, but obviously, I think my big takeaway is I think that it's written in a way that actually makes it more difficult to understand. I think it's possible to simplify it. It seems like back in 2019, obviously, that you are processing everything. But I'm curious if you plan to release it just like this or if you plan to edit it. I would say edit it, or here's another idea I had. You could release it as it is, but then, like, so on the page, have it two columns. Here's the running conversation, but next to it is the thinking as you've had all these things running through your head now. So it seems like that purple there at the end it is you putting together thoughts. And this reads a little more essay-like. I like it better.
That's because a professional is writing the purple. So, of course, yes, the creative writing master is definitely going to relate more to this, which even I relate a little bit more to this, especially now that all of this information has branched to my head. I see the even greater power within it. And I agree on everything she's saying. But I also find the formatting very unique and interesting of the way it is now. And yes, of course, it is still in work and in process. And I am still attempting ways to make this more digestible and easier for readers to read. But I also don't have to do that. There are books that are even crazier written uh, that people love and they still read and they still enjoy. And so yes, I am. I hear what Rachel is saying. Absolutely, I am not dismissing that. It is still in work and still in process, and I am doing everything that she's saying. I am sharing the way it is now, and I am going to edit that and then share the way that that is, and then we'll see how it evolves and expands. And that's another reason why it is still in this form, because it is important to showcase how it evolved and how it is evolving and what it evolves into. That is the whole not point of it, but is a one of the larger points of.
Um, Written. Uh, 4chan, man, I never spent time on 4chan. You know, another
Good.
thing that's interesting is one of my best friends does have schizophrenia, and I swear we used to have conversations like this.
I believe
I
that.
mean, he's brilliant. He's a biologist and works in, like, he's done biochemistry stuff, and he's included on peer review papers. So good for him.
Tinfoil hat moment. Uh, there are theories and speculations that schizophrenia and other brain mental things like that uh, could be a essentially like realities collapsing in on each other, and so your awareness is different. Uh, for example, like what's coming to my mind is again how we've talked before about like each of us has different abilities to do things and stuff. Uh, like most people cannot see ultraviolet light, right? But there's some people who can see like a very very tiny amount. Another example that's coming to mind is like some people are able to smell ants. They say they have this like sweet smell, which ants excrete these pheromones and stuff. Who's to say someone doesn't have this ability to smell these ants and read these pheromones as a human, right? And so the argument, this isn't my argument, but it is definitely something to think about, is that perhaps schizophrenia and mental things like it is just a different ability to see the universe through your brain. Who's to say that your brain is broken that way? Maybe that is the next step of where things be. Now, the problem with that is how a lot of these schizophrenic natures are a little bit harmful to some schizophrenics, like especially when it's like hearing voices that tell you to like hurt yourself or hurt others and everything. But who's to say that that's not terrible people reaching back through time, trying to take advantage of you, like um, like basically a prank phone call throughout time and space. Like let's say thousands of years from now, you can call back and like uh, act through someone, like go inside their head and mess around with them, like feed into their thoughts, you know, uh, because morally, like that's probably what people would do, is just fuck with the people in the past and laugh about it. Um, but yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing to share about schizophrenia. But yeah, definitely, it feeds into the obsession with things of like diving into things for some reason. I can't say every schizophrenic, but a lot of schizophrenics, or at least stereotypically that we hear about, schizophrenics do love to dive into life, the universe, and everything, and kind of this idea that God is talking to them. And so, I'm not saying fuck talks to me. I recognize that it is me, my own thoughts, my own intuition and stuff that is leading me to these things and seeing these patterns and everything. I do not believe myself to be schizophrenic. Um, Maybe you have a different opinion on that, but I've never been medically diagnosed as that. I don't have any intentions of getting that checked because that's not something that I think is even a concern or worried about. I'm just passionate about philosophy and these things, and I think this idea is something to be discussed, and so I do. It's just kind of like a hobby in a way. I just enjoy doing it.
Um,
I'm not obsessed with it.
but when that person said schizo, I was like, I I mean that person might not know, but I was like, I can definitely see.
And I
But
understand that.
it's not because what you're writing is schizophrenic. It's because what you're talking about is um, disconnected and conflicting while it's existing in cooperation.
Hmm.
Um, Obviously, that's not the best short way to describe that.
I understand what you
Um,
mean.
uh, I'm also curious with
But that's the difficulty of talking about these things, is because it is so paradoxical and it is so conflicting and everything, and it does make you sound uh, non-traditional. You know what I mean? And people love tradition. They love that base mind that doesn't sit there and question the universe. Uh, they want to just say, "Oh, weather's good. Yep," and then move on with their day, which is absolutely fine. But I want to talk about why the weather is good. Uh, what's are different things. Again, I'm not here to try to annoy you. I just want engaging conversation.
the choice of the funk, the name the funk. I mean, also we were both musicians, so I'm pretty sure we've also talked about the funk. But and I also recommend listening some older Ben Harper. He does some really good funk. But um, I guess my questions when I'm reading this is, who is this?
Probably just to speak on that subject, I think she's moving into a different direction. Why it is called funk is while meditating, that's essentially like the word that came to me to describe it. Because essentially, like funk is uh, both good and bad. It is the spectrum of things. Like when uh, you can feel it, you can smell it, you can see it, you know it when it's there, right? This funk. Um, it is good in that, like, when you hear funk, right? When you hear something funky, it moves you. You're like, oh yeah, like you make that stank face, that and then there is the actual stink of funk, like funk in a bad way. When you smell something funky, it moves you. You're like, oh, what the hell is that? Like, it. And so funk is this all-encompassing experience. It moves you. It makes you feel. You feel it because you are it. Uh, and that's kind of why where funk came to be. Um, because it is that experience of the good and bad and everything in between, and it's something that moves you, that makes you feel. Uh, and so that is why it's called funk, or why I describe it as funk in a way,
For?
or
And
one of the reasons why.
what is, also recommend listening some older Ben Harper.
Sorry, I went back a little
He
bit.
does some really good funk. But um, I guess my questions when I'm reading this is, who is this for, and what is the end goal? Um, and
Just to answer that before it continues, who is this for? I don't know. You, the person watching, whoever's interested, whoever it comes across in the times that it's going to come across when the funk provides those moments. It's for that person. Because obviously it's not for everyone. I would love for it to be for everyone. And that's kind of the idea of polishing it to where maybe we can reach that uh, limitless potential of reaching everyone and stuff. But again, the way that everyone is going to react to it is going to be completely different. But if you're here experiencing it, then it's for you. Uh, it's for me. Um, it's for funk, and it's just another translation and writing and poetry of an idea of whether it's fact, fiction, nonfiction, fantasy. It's a mixture of all of those things. It's just meant. It's just art that I'm sharing, and we are reacting to. Uh, and whoever is interested in that, or whoever comes across it, that is who it is for. Um, and the funk will provide that opportunity. There was a second question she asked. Who's it for? I wish there was a better way to rewind on this.
I guess, my questions when I'm reading this is, who is this for? And what is the end goal?
The end goal is either uh, people with more experience than I do, who in greater understanding, uh, prove this all wrong, prove me wrong, or punch major holes in this whole theory. Um, and then I can respond to that and either fix it or put it down and move on with my life and go somewhere else and do other art and everything. Or I just keep evolving this information and polishing it and presenting it to the future. For anyone who is ready to dive into an adventure just like this or the exploration of philosophy and everything, you have a huge building blocks. It's got uh, philosophy and ideology and religion from all over and everywhere, and it opens up concepts that I think are other stepping stones into places, and it's just got such a wide variety. It's as if like you were reading a dictionary and learning each word and be like, now I understand that. Now I understand that. But what this is basically a collection of ideas that hopefully inspire you to be like, that's that's an intriguing thought, or I don't believe that, and then it causes you further thought. You want to investigate it. You want to look into it. Like maybe you're a little bit more interested in Alfred North Whitehead now after hearing the way that he writes, and or this guy who's sharing his essay about Whitehead and the connection of things and stuff. Maybe that makes you a little bit more interested in looking up these things or meanings. Maybe you just come across a word or an idea, and now you have expanded yourself a little bit more. Uh, and so there really is no end goal because it will continue to evolve and expand. And the end goal is to just continue polishing this information and adding to it and expanding from it. And then eventually, who knows? If it goes far enough with everyone's information building into it, maybe we'll discover the meaning of life. Maybe we'll discover the meaning of existence. Maybe everything will suddenly come together in this pattern that we recognize, and we're like, "Oh shit, there it is." We've been putting it together for all these years, and now the puzzle pieces are in place, and we see the image. Uh, and so, kind of that's the kind of, I guess, ultimate end goal. But even that is not the end because that just is the start of another story. There is no real end. Uh, we each have our own small ends, but it just continues.
And I think if I was able to have a conversation with you, I could maybe give you a little bit better feedback. Actually, let me look and see what you wrote in the email again. Let me check. Okay, yeah, so it's basically what I'm doing. Yeah, if you want me to get down to a line by line, well, I usually charge for that. It's a lot of work. But I mean,
If I could afford that, I would not just hire you. I would hire a collection of people to see their uh, breakdowns and everything because each of them would be different. Um, and then we would take those and put them together. They'd just become different art pieces, different imprints of influence and space and time. And I'm doing that kind of in a way with the ChatGPT and the TLDR series, letting a computer give its own thoughts and imprints and stuff. But yeah, it'd be super cool to have uh, someone with greater knowledge and experience in like writing and study break it down and readjust it in the ways they think appropriate because it is a yaw of myself. It is someone else putting now their ideas and beliefs and rewording everything. You're uh, updating the message through yourself as you believe it to be, whether it's right or wrong. And I think that is pretty cool and pretty neat. And eventually, that is, and I can't say eventually, that is what is happening to each person reading these specific 10 pages through their way. They're interpreting each page in their own way, and only 10 pages of it. most of them, I don't think any of them really have read the entire treatise. And I'm curious that now these videos are out, and if any of them watch them in succession and read the whole thing, I'm curious how their thoughts change through that too. Do they still think it to be too at length? Do they think it to the format to be weird? Uh, because some people get each section was different for everyone, and some got sections that were weird and very experimental and very it wasn't all put together, uh, and you'll experience that a bit later with someone's reading where they just basically it pissed them off. They just the way they assumed the tone and what was happening, uh, it just did not rub them the right way. Um, and so you'll see that eventually when we get there. Um, let's keep going.
Overall, it's fun. There's some wit in here. Um, I like some of the references. It reminds me of a few other things that I personally have studied. Um, Obviously, it's repetitive. There's a bit of repetition,
Boy,
but
is
like
there.
I said, like this older stuff, this is all raw, and it's a lot of our early writing is actually just for us. Like I've had rough drafts, be 20 pages, and the final story end up being 5 pages because that's what's important. All the other information is important to me, but it can confuse other people or overwhelm them. Um,
Absolutely.
and so, in one way, that I like that later, you don't keep adding the or not. You just drop it in every once in a while. I think it's good that you don't continue to do it every time, just so long as it's been established. I'm looking at the 1D, 2D.
And I wish there was an easier way to do that because uh, if if I say one and I don't say or not, then someone can come back and clap back and be like, oh, but it also doesn't. And that's the whole thing is like, yes, I agree, I understand, and that's why I have to say it so much, and that's why I have to say so much repetitions. And if there's a overall all-encompassing way to do that, then yeah, boy, would I love that. But unfortunately, there's not. You have to go through the whole thing to understand it, rather than just uh, again the pahir or where tapu nine vestige. Uh, we each understand that in our own ways. You kind of know what I'm getting at with that, but we each understand it differently, and you won't really know what pahir or tapu nine vestige means unless you read this treatise, unless you read other things, unless you experience life and everything. Uh, and so it's that.
3D. Good morning, good evening, good night. I don't really understand this, honestly, because I've taken some astronomy classes, and uh, when I'm thinking about dimension, um, my brain took a hard shift when you went from, interpreting information in some specific dimension, then to naming it good morning, good evening, good night, and the funk. I was just kind of lost there.
I also definitely know what you mean on how it's a little confusing. Um, I think that what I talked about a little earlier, that my now thoughts on what I think I meant back then, I think that is loosely what I was trying to get at and everything. Um, but again, we forget. We write things down, and then sometimes they're like, "Oh, what was I talking about here? I don't know." That happens, and so that's why I've kind of kept it in there. Yes, it may add to the confusion, but it's still a part of the history, and it still caused this moment to happen and be and that questioning. But again, I think it's the idea of like uh, each dimension being a different part of the subset of something else. Hopefully, that makes sense because I'm moving on.
Um, Also, formatting super difficult. Like as a reader, this is not. I mean, I know it's your draft, but it is pretty difficult to read the way it is. Um, so for like a future reading, definitely you don't want whole sections. Um, well, I guess I don't know. I found the italics really hard to read, but I guess because it's bold and I don't know, everything just kind of fell in. Oh, because it's just one big block. So paragraphs would help, basic just writing stuff. But otherwise, like, you know what you're talking about. So pretty interesting stuff.
Uh, Again, kind of why. Yes, I'm still editing things. Yes, I'm gonna still try to break things down and uh, again be help be more translatable to the layman or anyone and everyone. But as an artist and a musician, a lot of my work, especially my music, I really enjoy uh, like a lot of because I'm known as one who makes art for the sake of art and not profit. Uh, a lot of my music, well, to finish the train of thought from the last thing, a lot of music that is made to be bought and digested uh, is basically uh, constructed and produced in a way that is designed to uh, attract you and reel you in and get your listens and get your money and everything. And so a lot of albums and stuff will be made to be this easy digestible thing that is beautiful and that is engaging and it gets you these things and it's not too weird or out of the ordinary and everything. And they usually put their like title single songs towards the front of the album, and then the songs that probably aren't as strong and stuff usually towards the end, depending on the album, depending on who is producing, depending on what their choices are. I love putting a uh, an experimental track as my first opening track. Uh, and I understand how this hurts me in a way because, and I see it in my stats and stuff. People will listen to the first track of an album and then they'll move on. They won't listen to the rest of the album because it is a unique and interesting challenge to them. And the reason I do this personally is because for those who are interested by that and they stick around, then the rest of the album is going to be very rewarding because it's not going to be that challenging or different or weird and stuff. It's going to turn into something else. The rest of the album, which a lot of my albums grow uh, towards the end, and the really good songs are usually at the end, uh, and that also that's why I call a lot of my music endurance music. It is made for those who enjoy endurance and pushing forward and continuing through life's hardships and the hardships of everything. And when presented with a challenging or something that something that just challenges the way you think or feel or do. And if you can continue through that, then you get rewarded with the rest of what's beyond that. It's kind of what, no, it kind of is, but kind of isn't. What I call a fuego puerta, which is like conceptually a fire door of something that may uh, cause harm to enter or go through. It definitely is a challenge to get through, right? Um, and so that is why it's a fire door. Um, but when you're within, uh, when you're beyond, when you've moved through the fire door, whatever is beyond that is the grass kind of greener on the other side scenario. It's just that transition through from one end to the other is a little difficult. Uh, just like another thing that came to me recently as a Instagram reel story um, was basically this cartoon about this person asking the universe for more and be like, I'm ready for more. and then the universe takes away all these other things in the background, like your friends, your family, your like hobbies and stuff. And then the person is like, "Wait, but I don't want to. I don't want to lose those things." And the universe is like, "Well, I mean, you're ready to move forward. Those things are holding you back." And the person is like, "Well, I want to go back to that. I miss that comfort. I don't want to lose those things." And that is the Fuego Puerta, that challenge of moving through the fire door from one end to the other. And I think I've talked a lot of the last pages of why humans are afraid uh, to engage in things like this, or afraid to challenge themselves in some ways or change. And I think it's the Fuego Puerta. It's just hard to go through that door of fire. It's a little terrifying and scary. And when you're on the other side, and maybe you've been burnt a little bit trying to move through it, or you've been affected, uh, even if you try to go back, it's not going to be the same, and it's going to hurt to go back a little bit. You're going to have to go back through the Fuego Puerta. Uh, and that's another term that came to me in a dream. That one was about like I was with a friend, and she called me a Fuego Puerta, uh, and I knew what she meant. Um, and then I woke up and I wrote that down, and it helped me define that term in this moment. All right, let's keep going.
I did not. I read a little bit at the beginning, but I actually, yeah, honestly, I really liked my favorite part is towards the end for me, in all the purple stuff. This is where I really start liking the writing and discussion. Um, yeah. So
Well,
if
I'm
you have any
glad.
questions, let me know. Um, thank you for this opportunity and good luck. Let me know if there's anything else I can do.
Well, I'm glad that I included someone else's writing in my own writing, and that it's more resonating, because it really is. Like, it is so well written. Um, because this was for a college thesis. Like, this was something that they had to do scholastically, and what I'm doing is not scholastic at all. It's just one man collecting these thoughts and opinions in a uh, wannabe scholastic manner. You know, I would love to be further peer reviewed uh, in that level. And will I ever get there? We'll see. Maybe, maybe not. Uh, but Rachel, thank you again for reading pages 81 through 90. Uh, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and everything. And that's basically it. That is basically pages 81 through 90. Thank you for being here, listener, watcher, reader, whoever you are, wherever you are. And in case I don't see you, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. One dimension, two dimension, three dimension, four dimension. Uh, and I love you. And the funk provides. I'll see you next time. Peace!